Jeremiah Johnson alongside Austin Croshere inside Quicken Loans Arena prior to Game 2 of this Eastern Conference playoff series. Pacers and Cavaliers. Austin, a 1-point loss in Game 1. What is your biggest takeaway that this team proved they can compete, or that they came just so short and maybe a lost opportunity?
I don't think there's any question. It's a little bit of both. I think the way that the Pacers have played over the last 7 games, particularly in Game 1, is a sign that they've sustained this level of high play, right? Both at the offensive end, defensively, and their energy, and they belong on the same court with Cleveland and can continue to push them throughout this series. Did they squander an opportunity? Yeah. I mean, when you're on the road against a 2 seed in the playoffs and one shot to win the whole thing, you come up short, you're obviously going to be frustrated.
Until that final shot by C.J. Miles went in the air and Paul George had the reaction that he did. The storyline, I think, was defensively who could make the adjustment, who could come up with some stops in Game 2. What adjustments do the Pacers need to make defensively?
Well, Coach McMillan mentioned that he thought that there was a lack of communication defensively from his team, and I think you'll see those adjustments. They elected to switch a lot of the pick and rolls, and I expect that we'll see that, maybe not as much. I think LeBron getting Jeff Teague in the low block one-on-one was one of the byproducts of not having the great communication. So paramount is the importance of keeping Kyrie and LeBron out of the lane, because then you have to collapse the defense, which opens up the three-point shooters. You really took Kyle Korver out of the game by doing that switching. So I think we'll see some of the things from Game 1 with some slight adjustments.
You could look at any game from a different lens depending on who you are, and Cleveland fans would say, well, they missed a lot of free throws. Kyrie Irving was 1 for 9 from 3. That's not going to happen in Game 2, so they maybe don't have reason to panic. But do you see Cleveland still with some holes, especially with their defense?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, they've had problems all year. They're nowhere near the team that they were in each of the last 2 seasons. And I think the Pacers, were far from perfect as well. I think there's room for improvement. You mentioned Kyrie Irving struggling. Well, Jeff Teague did as well, and I think he could look to take advantage of that matchup a little bit more. I think, again, with the consistency that we've seen over the last 7 games, offense isn't my concern. I think with the number of offensive threats that Cleveland has at the defensive end, it's going to continue to be a struggle, and you can't take plays off. One of the bigger weaknesses for the Pacers all season was rebounding. They out-rebounded Cleveland, which they have done to all of their opponents over the last 7 games. So that it was a negative. Now it's become a positive. But I think slowing down LeBron and Kyrie is always going to be paramount in these games. It's always easier said than done. Coach McMillan came up with a game plan. It's just a matter of making small adjustments to it.
Final thought, Paul George had 29 points. We saw playoff Paul George. Lance Stevenson with 16 points off the bench. Who else needs to step up? Who are you most looking for, maybe an X factor, to really help those 2 guys tonight?
I don't know if they're necessarily X factors, but Miles Turner and Jeff Teague are guys that played huge roles for this team all season long and really disappeared a little bit in Game 1. I think, as I mentioned with Jeff Teague, Kyrie Irving, not a great defensive player. He can really look to force the issue and get into the paint. Miles Turner, if the things aren't going for him in that high pick and roll, he has a tendency to disappear, but there's other things that he can do. He's very good defensively with the shot blocking, get on the offensive boards, get to the foul line, get some easy baskets. Those 2 guys have been key players. They need to step up here in Game 2.
And Glenn Robinson III, a game-time decision, but he went through shoot-around, so he could provide some extra length on defense as well. Once again, Austin Croshere will be on the radio starting at 6:30 tonight, and then also providing some analysis for Pacers Live post-game live on Fox Sports Indiana after tonight's broadcast on TNT. Be sure to flip over to Fox Sports Indiana for a 1-hour post-game show. From Quicken Loans Arena, let's go back to Pacers.com.